Gary Holman, would you come up to the stage, please? Gary? Gary Holman, would you come up to the stage, please?
Mike.
Gary! Gary Holman.
That was way louder.
He's my MP. I'm not going to yell at him. Gary, get on here.
So welcome, everyone. So feel free to come up towards the stage if you like. We've got plenty of room here. Okay. Feel free to come towards the stage if you like. We've got plenty of room.
Turn up the volume.
Turn it up. Check. Check. Is that better?
Better.
Oh, we want it louder. Louder if you could. Yeah. Okay, how's this? Okay, well, welcome to the Reform the Vote Victoria Rally on this National Day of Action in Canada. Thank you for all coming out. So first off, I would like to acknowledge that this rally takes place on unceded and traditional territories of the Lekwungen communities, Songhees, and Esquimalt First Nations. So thank you. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Reform the Vote Victoria Rally and this National Day of Action on Electoral Reform across Canada. We are here today to show support for reforming our electoral systems, both federally and provincially, so that we can actually have a democracy that mirrors the wills of Canadians and is able to adapt to the difficulties we will face as a nation together in the future. I personally participated in the Committee on Electoral Reform's public consultations. I even filled out the broken and inadequate mydemocracy.ca survey.
So did I!
Right? And I went to Marianne Monsef's public consultations as well in Victoria, all while thinking that the 1,813 times we were promised electoral reform was sincere, and that we would actually have change in this country and our votes would matter. Sadly, Trudeau broke that promise, and we as Canadians and citizens of the world must hold him and his party accountable for such blatant, empty posturing. We heard from Canadians of all walks of life, and the overwhelming majority favored a proportional representation system. We have consensus. Now it's time to walk the talk, Trudeau, and give Canadians the right to a bright future that we deserve where our votes matter. So thank you everybody for coming out today and braving the weather. It's nice, right? To have your voices heard. We have some great speakers today, so let's get the show on the road and reform the vote. As well, I'd like everyone to get to know your neighbors and introduce yourselves, for we're all allies in the struggle here, and it's time to organize. My name is Michael Glidden, but my friends call me Moby. It's a pleasure to meet you all. So first off, we have Elizabeth May, MP of Saanich Gulf Islands and leader of the Green Party of Canada, who's taken the time to come here and speak today. So let's give her a warm welcome, everyone.
Thank you. I usually don't get really mad at people, but I'm so mad at Justin Trudeau right now. Even my puppy is really mad at Justin Trudeau right now. Because, well, she was too young when he made the promise. She wasn't born yet. In all seriousness, I served, and it was an honor to serve, with 11 other members of Parliament on the Special Parliamentary Committee on Electoral Reform. That was part of the promise. The promise was clear, and we all know it by heart. 2015, let's say it together, 2015 will be the last election election held under first past the post. And why? Because we want to make sure that every vote counts. This was a clear promise, and it included the details of getting there. Within 18 months of forming government, Justin Trudeau said, my government will table legislation before Parliament for electoral reform. So everything's going along. We had some delays getting started. We finally got the committee established and working in late June of last year, 2016. We traveled 31,000 kilometers, 12 MPs representing 5 parties. We worked extremely hard, but that's not the point that we worked hard. Canadians believed in the promise and came out by the thousands. In fact, over 20,000 Canadians filled out a very, not particularly user-friendly, but extremely detailed survey that we, all 12 MPs, signed off on that would actually find out what Canadian voters wanted. This was not the mydemocracy.ca thing that was very fuzzy. I know, is my dog distracting? Oopsie. Come back here. She's just a puppy. So here's what happened. What we discovered overwhelmingly was that not just do Canadians who understand our voting system want to get rid of it in favor of a fair voting system. The parliamentary committee that first studied electoral reform in 1921 concluded that first past the post does not work for any democracy that has more than 2 political parties. So our parliamentary committee was the first to say, right, the evidence is overwhelming, we should move to proportional representation. And I want to point out, because I've seen the things with great dismay, in the time since Justin Trudeau broke that promise February 1st, he seems to be determined to grasp at any straw, shamefully grasping at straws that make no sense, such as saying that yesterday, he said in Yellowknife, under our current system of first past the post, the 3 big parties, I think by that he meant the real ones, the 3 big parties cooperate. They confer and we get consensus decisions. That's the opposite of what happens. Cooperation, consensus decision-making happens under proportional representation. Leads to hyper-partisanship, exactly the kind of political ploy that Justin Trudeau is shamefully using right now to break his own promise and defend it by appealing to Canadians' better nature. So he says, we have cooperation, except that now he's saying, and I just want to say as a member of the committee, leader of the Green Party, it is absolutely untrue to say the NDP were unfair or inflexible and were not willing to work well with others. The NDP worked well with others on that committee. And believe it or not, so did the Conservatives, so did the Bloc, but even the 4 Liberals who filed their own dissent from our recommendation of the majority that we should move to proportional representation, even the 4 Liberals in their dissent could not bring themselves to endorse preferential or ranked ballot because all the evidence was against it. So Justin Trudeau's problem is he says he liked ranked ballot, he wanted ranked ballot, and unfortunately, now here's where he tries to say, but the NDP wouldn't listen. No, nobody, even the 4 Liberals you picked to be on the committee, Justin, even they could not endorse the system you wanted because it's the only system on the evidence that gives more distorted results than first past the post. So now he's also saying that in the interest of national unity, we can't have proportional representation. I'm sure you've all seen the unity crisis that has plagued New Zealand since they grasped mixed member proportional. The only country on earth where the Indigenous members of the House of Commons in New Zealand exactly equal the proportion of Indigenous people across New Zealand. Where voter turnout goes up, where representation of women goes up, and in any fair system where you have either mixed member proportional or single transferable vote, extremist parties do not rise to the fore. So before I sit down the last of Justin Trudeau's more ridiculous red herrings of the last few days, we might have a party led by Kelly Leitch. Newsflash, she's currently running for leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. There's no reason to think that she or Kevin O'Leary might not win. And if you want to make sure they're not a prime minister with a majority of the seats, with 100% of the power, with less than public support, for God's sake, get rid of first past the post while we still have the chance. So I'm so grateful to all of you for coming out today. This issue matters to the heart of democracy, but more than that, it matters that prime ministers keep their promises. It matters when they appeal to something that was in the platforms that 62% of Canadians voted for. We believed you, Justin. I know when you made that promise, I'm going to say this out loud, I know when you made that promise, you intended to keep it. It's not too late to admit that you made a mistake. You can fix this, we can fix this, Parliament can fix this, and Canadians must not stop saying to the top of our voices as loudly as we can, Justin Trudeau, keep your promise, give us fair voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth May. That was great. Okay. So, let's give her another round of applause. That was awesome. Okay, so next up we have Randall Garrison, MP for Esquimalt, Saanich, Sooke, speaking on behalf of the NDP today. So give him a warm welcome, everyone.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being out here today on what is obviously the most fundamental political issue of our time. Now, I'm going to start by saying the obvious. There are other urgent issues that we need to address. Among those, the failure to address reconciliation with First Nations, and the failure of this government to provide equal funding for First Nations kids, the failure to deliver safe drinking water, and the failure to lift the 2% cap on post-secondary education for Aboriginal people. We also have a government that's broken its promises on climate change and approved the Kinder Morgan pipeline under the same old conservative process. And we have a government that has failed to condemn Trump's refugee ban in the United States, and while saying nice words about Canada on refugee issues, has not changed one single thing to allow refugees whose lives are in danger to find sanctuary in Canada. Not one thing. So why do I raise those? This is a rally on electoral reform. Because the only way for us to address all those challenges in the future, no matter what our positions are on those, is to get an electoral system where every vote counts. Now let's remember the situation when the Prime Minister made his promise. We were in the middle of an election campaign where the Liberals were in third place, had 34 seats in the House. And they took a page from the NDP platform, from the Green platform, even the Bloc platform. But at that time I thought, okay, that's actually a good thing. Because no matter what we end up with after the election, no matter how many seats we have, Canadians are going to vote the Conservatives out, and we'll have a consensus among the other parties on the necessity of electoral reform. That was the point of his promise, and that's the import of his promise, if I can say it that way. That's what was important about it at the time. It gave Canadians a chance to vote for parties, as Elizabeth said, which 62% did. They voted for parties committed to electoral reform. So it's time to deliver that reform. It's time to address the false majorities that let the Conservatives do things like pass Bill C-51. And I was proud to lead the opposition in the House of Commons, but that bill is still in place today. I was proud to work for the provision of safe injection sites across the country, which the Conservative majority blocked. And I was proud to oppose the recriminalization of prostitution, which puts victims at even further risk. All of those things are a product of the kind of false majority that the Liberals now enjoy. And so I was particularly disappointed, and I couldn't get all 1,000 promises on a card, but I got one here, one comment from the Prime Minister. Here's what he said in his own words. Now that Canadians have a government they are more satisfied with, the motivation to want to change the electoral system is less compelling. I couldn't disagree more. Now, other than missing the historic opportunity to change our electoral system, there are 4 things I find particularly galling about the way this has happened. The Prime Minister has dismissed the hard work of hundreds of thousands of Canadians on this issue. He's dismissed the hard work of the committee, Elizabeth May, Nathan Cullen, and all the other members of that committee. But more than that, he's dismissed the hard work of hundreds of thousands of Canadians who participated in this process in good faith, expecting the promise to be kept. Secondly, he's now pushing the fear button. He's trying to say that somehow proportional representation, again, as Elizabeth said, will drive us to extremism, will split the country up, when everybody who paid any attention knows it's proportional representation that leads toward compromise, that leads toward moderation, and that leads toward making every vote count rather than alienating people from the system. The third thing, and I'm going to be very blunt about this, is there's a new phenomenon I think we're seeing, and it's called, rather than the glass ceiling for women, it's the glass cliff. And so when it's time to do particularly dangerous and dirty political work, rather than taking responsibility yourself as the Prime Minister, you take a woman and stick her out in front and make her walk the plank for you. Particularly shameful. The first one may have been voluntary, the second one wasn't. And the last thing that I really want to say about this is it is a broken promise by the Prime Minister, and I'm going to echo Elizabeth on this. There's nothing more fundamental than a promise, and I should have brought 1,800 cards, a promise that was restated so many times, was so fundamental to the outcome of the election, and was so fundamental to the future of this country. So thank you for being out today. They are presuming Canadians don't care, and they are presuming Canadians will forget. And so it's up to all of us to let them know that Canadians care. And when it comes to by-elections, we've got 5 coming up, let's make sure this is a really big issue in those by-elections. And when it comes to the next election, I trust all of you will remind your neighbors not to forget this promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall Garrison. Woo! Okay. Another round of applause? Why not? That's great. So now we have David Murner speaking for Fair Vote Canada's National Council. So say hello, everyone.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, everybody. I want to start by thanking Mogi. He's the guy who set this up right from the start. He put a Facebook post up about a week ago. Thank you very much, Mogi, for pulling this together. Rick Hobgood at the back, wave your hand with the beard over there. Fair Vote Canada, president in Victoria. He's the guy who got the insurance for this thing. Thanks very much, Rick. Great job. And thanks to everybody here. There's lots of people in the crowd, Joanne Roberts and others, and all the people at the podium here for coming together, because we're not going to get electoral reform unless we work together across the country. And it started in Newfoundland this morning, Lead Now, and 60 other organizations are pulling together with Fair Vote Canada. And we're campaigning across the country today on this day of protest, fighting for electoral reform. And it doesn't matter if you're Green or NDP or federal Liberal, which I am. We still believe in this cause, electoral reform, and the time for change. Now, there are many federal Liberals here. You can see them in their red outfits. All of the red people here are federal Liberals, and we're just as disappointed as you are that this has happened in our country, where we've had an electoral promise. We've worked hard. I knocked on doors on this issue, and yet we haven't made it over the top. So what do we do now? Cross the floor, we could cross the floor, or what else can we do? Fight from within, and it's time to keep fighting. What we're doing in Fair Vote Canada is we're setting up protests across the country, but we have to do more than protest. As Randall said rightly just now, we also need to move from protest to power to policy, and that means getting involved in the political processes, getting involved in this upcoming provincial election, getting involved in nomination meetings, getting involved in knocking on the doors, and doing the hard work it takes to bring electoral reform. And all of you here, it's great. Many of you are political activists. I recognize your faces, not just from the Federal Liberals, but from other parties. And we need to bring in our friends and our family to knock on doors with us and fight for electoral reform. There are lots of proportional representation supporters inside the Liberal Party. Joyce Murray, right? Vancouver Quadra, and Nathan Erskine-Smith in Toronto. There's a core of people who really still believe in this. And what we're saying as federal Liberals who believe in proportional representation, let's stick together. Let's fight for this. We're going to fight for it from within the Federal Liberal Party. We haven't won this time, but we are going to continue that fight. And we want to work with all the other parties, because the cheap shots and so on aren't going to be what pull us together and win this campaign. What is going to win is us all working together towards this cause. Thank you for hearing us out today. We had a very snowy and rainy week last week, very disappointing. Victorians were shoveling snow, and look at the sun's shining again. All of us here up on the podium together. That's the future we want. Thank you very much.
That was great. Thank you, David Murner. Yeah. So next up is Terry Dance-Bennick of Fair Vote Canada's Victoria chapter, one of the key organizers for this event.
Hi, everybody. I'm really honored. I think I'm the only person who isn't a politician up here. But I'm honored to be here with one of my heroines, Elizabeth May. And I watched the Electoral Reform Committee, like probably many of you, online deliberate for months. And my hat goes off to Elizabeth and also Nathan Cullen for their outstanding leadership. I also want to acknowledge David Murner's courage in speaking out today. I have a lot of respect for this man and got to know him through work with Fair Vote Canada. And I know that his heart is aching. Like, it took him a few days to decide whether he could get here today. And he's been incredibly dedicated to the cause of PR, and as a member of Fair Vote Canada's National Council, allies like him are priceless. And we'll need to win over many Liberal MPs in the coming year. So let's remember that. But I speak today as an ordinary citizen who cares passionately about democracy. I'm also an eco-organizer and volunteer with Sierra Club and the Rolling Justice Bus to stop Site C. Yes! And that's why I've taken up this cause. I'll get to that in a minute. But I wear my Fair Vote hat this morning, and I want to share with you my letter, which was published in the Times Colonist last Sunday, in the hope it will encourage you to write your own letter. Quote, I'm appalled that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has abdicated his promise to make 2015 the last election under first past the post. Thousands of Vancouver Island citizens spoke up at public consultations, canvassed voters, researched the issue, and wrote letters to the editor. How many of you showed up? Hands up. In some form or another. Wrote a letter, listened to the debates, came out. Right, majority. We all wanted a form of proportional representation, and we weren't alone. As Elizabeth said, 88% of the expert witnesses all supported PR, and 87% of all those who showed up at the public consultations wanted PR. And 13 federal and provincial commissions for the past decade have called for it. So we've done our homework. We feel betrayed. If Trudeau had won a minority government, would he have acted differently? Yes. I suspect so. And the cynical side of me thinks, why does power always seduce? No wonder so many young people are cynical about politicians.
Not just young people.
Yeah, not just young people, you got it. It seems that we just can't trust politicians to reform a system that rewards them. And that's what I've been struggling with. How do you overcome that problem? And yet, most Western democracies have brought in PR. So why can't Canada? It would protect us from petty dictators like Trump and phony majorities like the one enjoyed by Harper and now Trudeau. I won't be voting Liberal in 2019. I'm sorry, David. And I certainly won't be voting for the so-called Liberals in the BC election on May 9. I'll cast my vote for a party that guarantees, in writing, in blood, that it won't flip-flop on electoral reform. End of my letter. So my challenge to you is, write your own letter. It's not hard. Like, that took me 20 minutes. I whipped it off on email. Often my letters don't get published. This one did. And it will keep the media from saying, we don't care. And send a copy to Trudeau, to your MP, to your MLA, and post it on social media. There are other ways that you can take action. Lead Now is calling on everybody across Canada to drop in at their MP's office and let them know how mad you are, regardless of their party affiliation. And pay them regular visits, not just a one-off. Let's learn from the Tea Party down south and keep up the pressure. You can also sign the federal petition E616. Where's Freya? She's got the postcards on this. Freya, where are you? Yell out. She's over there. And we've surpassed 100,000 signatures. And the thing that really excites me is that Fair Voting BC, and I think all the allies, will support a charter challenge. Canada's charter guarantees our right to vote and our right to equal treatment. But only when half of us have an MP we support. The system is discriminatory and excludes our voices. And constitutional lawyers say we have a good case. So, this is going to be a crucial strategy. Pledge your support. Go to charterchallenge.ca. And if you want to take action, you don't want to be alone, you want to join some kindred spirits, join Fair Vote Canada's Victoria chapter. We're gathering signatures on our Voters' Declaration of Rights. We have 68,000 signatures so far. So join us for a beer. We need beer these days, or a glass of wine. And we're meeting on Thursday, February 21st at Ross Bay Pub at 5 p.m. So just come along. And finally, don't forget to vote on May 9 for a party that has principles and won't betray us. BC has the strongest record of all provinces in wanting electoral reform. 58% of us voted in favor of a single transferable vote in the referendum in 2005. And if we'd won, we likely would not be facing Kinder Morgan, the Site C Dam, and LNG plants, would we? No. I'm tired of the constant headbutting with government about environmental issues. Are you? Yes. and tackling one issue at a time is exhausting. We need systemic change that gives every voter a voice in the corridors of power. And lastly, what are you doing on Tuesday, 12 noon, Valentine's Day? Did you know the legislature is opening? Christy Clark will be there, the Lieutenant Governor, cannons will be going off, and there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of citizens standing up for what they love in BC. We're going to have great speakers chanting, singing, we're going to be making noise. We want to get our vision across to the powers that be. So please join us 12 noon, Tuesday at the Ledge, and wear red and bring a noisemaker.
Thank you, Terry. Okay. Yeah, applause again for Terry. That was great. And I want to stress the point about making your voices heard. Call the Prime Minister's office, contact the Minister of Democratic Institutions, Karina Gold, and make your voices heard. Flood their offices, just non-stop. Okay, now up is Gary Holman, MLA of Saanich North and the Islands with the British Columbia New Democratic Party.
Thanks so much, everyone. What a great turnout. Pretty short notice, and look at the turnout that we got today, indicating the passion behind this issue. I came here today to share with you your disappointment, if that's not too strong a word, your outrage at the betrayal of that promise the Prime Minister made. I also wanted to, point the way to a possibility for a change in British Columbia coming up in May 2017, not in a partisan way, but specifically in relation to this issue. But just quickly on, I won't belabor the arguments for proportional rep. I want you to know that in 2005, as a locally elected official, I publicly supported and voted for the STV proposal put forward to British Columbians, and then again in 2009 as an NDP candidate, I publicly supported Thank you. Publicly supported and voted for STV in 2009. Federally, we seem to collectively, I'm sure no one here was deceived by the old strategy of campaigning from the left and then governing from the right. I'm sure none of us here were deceived by that. But collectively, as a society, we still seem susceptible to those promises that then are not quite lived up to. And that's what's happened again federally. I do want to mention again, there is a petition still circulating, being sponsored by Nathan Cullen, 100,000 signatures. That's going to send a real message to the Prime Minister. And that's still an active petition. Okay. Elizabeth may have a comment about the petition later, but all I'm saying is it's still a live document. So just provincially, I wanted to make the point that there is a way forward here in May 2017. Very important election, one of the most important, maybe the most important election in BC's history. And on behalf of John Horgan, the leader of the official opposition, who virtually the moment he became leader, committed publicly to putting electoral reform back to voters in British Columbia. Now, I know, and as the spokesperson, I've been traveling the province talking to citizens, talking to advocates about that promise, about the devil in the details in that promise, and I do understand that advocates are very concerned about referenda because they tend to get taken over by big money and loud voices and basically become a way to kill the idea. I understand that, I sympathize with that. And I've got some suggestions for how to deal with that. The difficulty that we're faced with provincially, it was mentioned the 58% result in 2005. What was not mentioned was the 40% result in 2009. Now, there are a number of reasons why that may have happened. The provincial government didn't support it in the same way with information like they did in 2005. There was a yes and no campaign that were actually funded by government that muddied the water. There were prominent voices seen to be representing the NDP and even the Greens, who didn't particularly like STV, were speaking out against it. So it was confusing from a number of perspectives. Nevertheless, the result was still 40%. And so we are hung up on that contrary result, and that's why we're proposing that we need a voter mandate to move ahead. Now, here's some thoughts, though, about how to win that referendum. First of all, and I can be clear about this and unequivocal, I'll be giving my blood later, 50% plus one should be the threshold to win any referendum in British Columbia. And that's a commitment I can make, that John Horgan makes, 50% plus one. So that's the most important thing. We would in fact have a PR system now if that rule had been adopted in 2005. And in fact, the Premier of the day, and you have to give Gordon Campbell credit for actually putting forward two referendum, but the Premier of the day actually turned back the HST initiative based on a 50% plus one rule, not the arbitrary 60%. So that's one way that we can establish winning conditions, let's say. The second issue, of course, is what's the question? We're not, the official opposition, we're not wedded to a particular system. We are very clear, though, that it's proportional representation we're talking about, not this alternative vote or ranked ballot, which in fact gives even less proportional results than the current first past the post. So it's definitely a form of PR that we're advocating, but we haven't been getting into the details on that. And one suggestion I've been bouncing off Fair Vote and others, and I just met with them the other day, and we're now negotiating on the set of minutes that's going to reflect the outcome of that meeting, which will be going up on their website. So there's perhaps there's a little bit of blood there, public commitment. But the question I've been suggesting to advocates is that we might have a better chance of a more generic kind of question. So rather than a specific system and getting into the devil in the details, a generic question which elevates the debate hopefully to one of principle as opposed to more technical details. So for example, voters of British Columbia, do you support a voting system in which the percentage of MLAs that a party gets in the legislature is reflected by the percentage of votes? It's a very simple principle. A principle of fairness, and I think people understand that. I think they agree with that intuitively, that principle of fairness. That's what Canada is all about. So that's the second issue. And the third issue, of course, is the government of the day has to support, has to say, we believe moving ahead with PR is the right way to go, and support it accordingly. Not this, well, we're neutral, we'll let people decide, right? The government of the day has to support it, and we will do it. We will do it. So those are the three, our belief at this point. And, you know, actually, if the Prime Minister had actually followed through on his promise and implemented proportional rep, you know, we might have taken a more aggressive view in British Columbia. That, unfortunately, has not happened. I was really looking forward to the way being paved federally, and that hasn't happened. Not yet. And we're not giving up yet. No, I understand that. So, in any case, that's the simple outline of the commitments we've made as a provincial party. Now, the only way this is going to happen is if we change government in British Columbia. That's not a partisan comment. That's just reality. voting system is not going to change. And another thing that's really important in British Columbia, and Andrew Weaver, MLA for Gordon Head, Oak Bay, or is it Oak Bay, Gordon Head? Which? Oak Bay, Gordon Head. It's very confusing, Andrew. We'll be speaking to this later, perhaps. But what's also very important in British Columbia are the election finance rules, or big money rules in this province. So another commitment that we had made is that if the official opposition forms government, we would be banning political donations from corporations, unions, and setting limits on personal donations, all of which are in place at the federal level. In British Columbia, it truly is the Wild West here, as coined, that term coined by the New York Times. In fact, Andrew and I were speaking about that in the legislature long before the New York Times tweeted to it. But that's another very important issue in British Columbia, the role of big money. The Liberal government, the Liberal Party, is awash in money. And another related matter is government advertising. We're also committed to placing government advertising under the control of the Auditor General in British Columbia, which is a system they have similar in Ontario. So right now, we're seeing the spending ramping up and the ads that convey the general great feelings about how government is doing in British Columbia. These kinds of reforms are also very important to make our election system fairer. And the reason I'm proud of our party's position on these issues, is because in the long run, it's going to benefit smaller parties and it's going to benefit independents more than it will the two mainstream parties in British Columbia. That's a fact. That will happen. If we have a PR system, if we reform our election financing to level the playing field, it's going to disproportionately benefit smaller parties like the Greens, like the Conservatives, and independents like Vicky Huntington, who just blew the whistle, by the way, on the Premier on her ridiculous claims of hacking. For a Premier to make those kinds of allegations is criminal in itself. So look, I'm getting the hook here. Thanks so much, everyone, for turning out, for listening to me. I just want to remind you, in terms of this issue about votes not counting, the difference between this government and a government with a progressive agenda in 2013, when you sum up the differences in the ridings that we needed to form a government in British Columbia, 6,500 votes was the difference between governments in 2013. In 2009, it was 3,500 votes. Every vote does count. Please exercise your franchise and be thinking about these issues first and foremost when you do that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Gary Holman. Another round of applause. Okay, next up is Andrew Weaver, MLA of Oak Bay, Gordon Head, and leader of the Green Party of British Columbia. Give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all coming out. I represent a small party, apparently, but a party that will lead British Columbia to form government in 2017. Just watch. We are a party based on principles. We have 6 guiding principles in our party, and one of them is proportional representation. I'm here today to tell you that we will not hold a referendum. We will do it because it is who we are. We believe in proportional representation. We'll campaign on proportional representation, and there will be a referendum. It is on May the 9th. Because if you want it, there is one party in this province that will follow through on that promise and ensure that this truly is the last election in BC that is done by first past the post. More than that, while I recognize that we're talking about the federal system, and I have hope that Trudeau will recognize that there is a ground surge of support for first past the post, and he will change his mind, because strong leadership, principled leadership, is one where you stand by your commitments and you're willing to admit that you were wrong. He was wrong in this decision. He needs to listen to British Columbians. To Canadians, but here we are in British Columbia, we will listen to British Columbians. We know that first past the post has long gone. It's a matter of trust, too. Look at Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island recently had a referendum on proportional representation, and it passed. But guess what? Guess what? It passed, but the governing party didn't like the result. So it's not being acted upon. We can look around the world in jurisdictions, thriving democracies that have first past the post as their foundation, all throughout Europe, New Zealand, essentially everywhere other than Britain, Canada, and America. And look what's happening in America. Look what happened in Britain with the Brexit vote. And this is a direction that we need to reclaim our democracy to get away from. So, to conclude, I recognize it's a beautiful day and you want to spend time with your families. Let me assure you that the BC Green Party, a party that will put outstanding candidates across British Columbia, wait for our announcement on Tuesday for Victoria Swan Lake, when we bring an absolutely incredible person to represent us there. Wait for our announcement in Esquimalt. Wait for our announcement in Juan de Fuca. We've already got 6 PhD scientists on our team. We've got a bunch of lawyers. We've got civil servants. We've got forestry workers. We have an incredible team of people that will represent British Columbians in the upcoming election. And they're doing this not because they believe that politics is a career path that they should follow. They're doing it because they're fed up with the dichotomy of dysfunction that exists in our legislature, fighting the Cold War that has long been won between the left versus right, and ignoring the critical problems that we need to deal with today. Climate change, electoral reform, silly promises about LNG, and lack of accountability for making decisions that are not there. So with that, I'll say one last thing. And leadership is about practicing what you believe in. I do understand that the BC NDP, as Gary said, will ban union and corporate donations. And I applaud them for that. But we know that 43% of their donations in 2013 and 37% came from union and corporations in 2012. We took a risk. In September of this year, we realized that the BC Green Party should act on its principles. And we banned union and corporate donations. And since that time, our fundraising has gone through the roof. We've had thousands and thousands and thousands of people across British Columbia donate an average of $58. We raised $250,000 in December alone from people, not corporations and unions, and it continues on. So if people want change in this province, if you want proportional representation, check out the BC Green candidates. We will ensure it happens. We won't promise to have a referendum and talk about it. It will happen in the year following May of 2017. Thank you.
Rick, I know you wanted to say something, so let's give another round of applause for Andrew Weaver.
Thank you, Mogi. Well, when you piss off a puppy, that's pretty bad, eh? Well, my name is Rick Havgett. I am the president of Fairvote Canada Victoria, a great honor. And thank you. And I'd like to thank all the speakers today. They were absolutely spectacular. They made their points. And of course, the major point is that we need a proportional representation voting system. And each and every one of the speakers did a fabulous job of making that point and making sure that they support it, we support it, and it's just a matter of us going out and being tenacious about it, because our children, our grandchildren depend on it. We cannot allow that. We cannot allow this first past the post system to continually degrade and chip away at our democracy and our society. So I'd like to thank the speakers. Thank you so much. David, Andrew, Terry, Gary, Randall, and of course Elizabeth May. She's had to leave. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our core volunteers. This campaign started a long time ago, way back past 2005. I used to have a show on CFUV It was called Solutions. It morphed into Breaking Ice. But in Solutions, in 2004, a lady came on and she was supporting proportional representation, and her name was Wendy Boogerud. And Wendy Boogerud was our leader. Wendy Boogerud should be here today. She should be here today. Unfortunately, she passed away last year. So Wendy paved the way, she paved the roads for us to go down. It's because of Wendy that this issue is so big right here in Victoria. I mean, look at the crowd. I mean, Donald Trump would be jealous, right? It goes on forever. Yeah, so I would like to thank Philip Simons.
Yay!
I'd like to thank Marin Proctor.
Yay!
I'd like to thank Stephen Harrison. I'd like to thank Lars Hansen. I'd like to thank Freya Kitty. She is the sign lady. She makes these signs. She's created a lot of these signs. They are works of art. She is brilliant at making signs. Thank you, Freya. Thank you. And David Murder. David has been consistent with his support for proportional representation. If you want a presentation, if you have a group, David will come and he will give you a presentation. She is here. Elizabeth is here. She's one of my heroines. Elizabeth May is, there isn't anyone like Elizabeth. She's the greatest. And what a speaker. What a speaker.
The thing I wanted to edit into Gary's speech, which was quite wrong of me, was to explain the nature of that petition online. It's sponsored by Nathan Cullen. It's one of the newer mechanisms of Parliament. It's called an e-petition. So it goes into Parliament. It will require an answer from the government to your email directly. But none of us who gather the names on the petitions will ever have access to your emails. It's a very new function. So having it climb above 100,000 is great. But having it climb above 1 million will be better. Thank you. Woo.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. And one more volunteer that we have here that is absolutely, we all know her. She's brilliant. She's the super organizer, and Victoria is so much a better place because of her. And that's Terry Dance Benedict. She is absolutely the best. No one like Terry. Okay, I'm being kicked off the stage. I just want to say about Wendy, she was my friend, my mentor, and one of the things, I'm just going to leave you with this because I'm being kicked out of here. She continually said, one person, one party, minority of votes, 100% of the power. That's not democracy. That's really unhealthy. That's super unhealthy. How can you have 100% of the power when the majority... Trudeau talks about consensus. Is that consensus? I don't think so. When you have 39% of the vote. And yet you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to approve Kinder Morgan, no problem. It's done. If you want to approve Site C, no problem. It's done. There's nobody to challenge. What we got to do is we got to rally, we got to march, we got to court cases. That's the way in which we got to do it. We have no other way of doing it. And with a proportional representation. What that means, the main ingredient in proportional representation is meaning rule by coalition. That means that all of us are in the legislature, all of us are in Parliament. And the NDP and the Greens and the Liberals and the Conservatives are actually taking off their gloves and shaking hands and saying, what can we do to better it for the citizens of Canada and BC? None of this crazy fighting that they do. What we need to do is reach across. This has got nothing to do with the party. This has got to do with Canadians and British Columbians. Forget about the gloves. Forget about the fights. The whole idea with proportional, I have no doubt in my mind that every single politician up here wants proportional representation. If we get it, we will get it. But when we get it, they have to realize that they drop the gloves. They shake hands, and they govern for us, not the Liberals, not the NDP, and not the Greens. We're all in it together. Okay, anyways, thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming out, and I'm being kicked out of here. Mogi man. Here's Mogi man. Thank you so much, Mogi. He's the instigator of all this. Mogi started out a week and a half ago. Yeah. One idea of meeting a few people in the square here and holding up a sign. That's how it begins. Mogi, thank you so much. Oh, you're an honorary member now of Fair Vote Canada Victoria chapter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's give it up for Rick Havigood and Fair Vote Canada, Victoria's chapter, and nationally. Okay, so now we'll have an open mic. So anyone that wants to say anything, just line up over here, and one by one, you can come up and say your piece. Have your voice heard.
Next Fair Vote meeting is Thursday, February 21st, 5 p.m., Ross Bay Pub.
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I woke up this morning and decided that I wanted to speak to you all just as a citizen of Victoria, of this beautiful city. And I just wanted to share a story and see if anyone else here might have felt the same way. The morning that I woke up and clicked on my phone and saw that Justin Trudeau had abandoned the idea of proportional representation and voter reform. Basically, what I found that morning was I had a very visceral, emotional reaction, and it felt what basically happened was I actually had a flashback to about 20 years ago when I walked into my storage unit when I lived on Côte de Neige in Montreal, and I found that my bicycle had been stolen, and I had that reaction where I just felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I don't know if anyone else had that reaction here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I sort of took that emotion and I tried to figure out why I had that flashback to that day. And I realized after some time, after hours and weeks and of thinking about it, that first of all, I had an emotional attachment, just as I had an emotional attachment to the vote that I cast for the Liberal Party in the last election. I believed Justin Trudeau, and I had an emotional attachment to what he promised. The second reason was that I had, for the first time, I had a monetary attachment. Just as I did to my bicycle, I paid good money for it. I had a monetary attachment to, I actually gave money for the first time in my life to a political party. And I had given some to the Liberal Party, not much, but what I could afford. And it felt to me like that had been betrayed. The third thing that happened, and this took a bit longer to realize, was that my mode of transportation was gone. My bicycle was gone. And in the same way, when he broke his promise to continue with electoral reform, I had lost my way to go to where I wanted to be, and that was to a Canada that supported proportional representation. Now, I was watching the National and I watched Chantal Hébert talk one night, and she sort of struck a tone with me because she said that when Justin Trudeau promised this, I actually do believe he promised and he meant his promise. But when a leader decides that he wants to pursue something and make something happen, I don't know if anyone here misses Barack Obama yet. I remember flicking on the television, during his time and during the Harper era, and being amazed that he would stand there and speak to the people of his country and listen to the people of his country. And it was at that moment when Chantal was saying this that I realized that if Justin Trudeau had actually wanted this to happen, maybe the committee didn't come up with exactly what he wanted it to be, but he would have stepped in instead of stepping out at a moment when there wasn't consensus. He would have stepped in as a leader and made something happen. And I believe that he absolutely failed his country, and he failed the people of his country by not doing that. So I think in the end, I could be naive, but I hear everyone sort of coming to terms with and deciding that this process is over, that he doesn't have the opportunity to open a door, which he simply closed 2 weeks ago. And just as I had a very emotional reaction to that, I think that Justin Trudeau, the human being, who is just like you and I, he feels things, he hears voices, he watches the news. If he watches us, if we explain to him how absolutely hurt and how we feel that we were stolen from, I actually feel that my vote was stolen. If he can hear that, I call on his moral compass to change his decision. I think it's entirely possible. There's one person out there that can do this, and that is him. And he needs to look at his ego and his consciousness as a human being and understand that he's really hurt thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Canadians in breaking his promise. So I'm calling on him today to do that, to turn around and change his mind on this. So I think we all gathered here today because we were angry and we wanted to yell and scream, but I also want to just reflect on the hurt that Justin Trudeau has caused and how we want to call on him to change his mind and make every vote count. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bronwyn Merle from Pender Island, and I'd like to suggest that we begin a national recall program in which we recall attempt to recall. It is very difficult, of course much easier to elect after the first past the post than to get rid of someone, but we could do it on a national way, launching campaigns to recall every single Liberal MP, as well as the Prime Minister, every Liberal MP that is not contained the nobleness to go forward with proportional rep. So we would spare a few, but I think we really need to do this to give a huge message that you're not safe. It can't be safe to be a hypocrite in these terrible times. So I'd like to suggest that.
Well, first of all, thank you very much to the organizers. I'm Dr. Teal Phelps Bonderoff, and I'm the guy sardonically holding up a sign criticizing Trudeau's research methodology, which might seem like shouting into the wind when we're all upset about his lies, but as a professional political scientist, I was thoroughly upset by the My Democracy survey. Did anyone write the survey? Or fill out the survey, rather? Now, it says it's going to take 20 minutes on the front to fill in. It took me 5.5 hours. I might have been reading too much into the questions, but I don't think I was. I'd be interested to see who answered the question, would you support online voting even if it were not so secure? How do you answer that question? It's literally the definition of a complex question. I also work as a debate coach, and that is a fallacy. And it's really difficult to form quantifiable research results when you're asking really stupid questions. So I came here today not only to criticize Trudeau for his bad choices and decisions that he's made, but also to criticize him for the money he wasted on bad research methodology, terrible survey design, which dragged the name of good social scientists through the mud. So I think when you look at social science research and survey construction, please do not think of the terrible work of Vox Pop, the company that was in charge of making the survey that wasted $4.1 million of our money, and try and think of a different company. Well, thank you all very much.
Hello, my name is Delmar. I just got something important to share with you because it's something I've discovered. I'm not the first one, but there are many others too. A way to end poverty. And it's really simple, and it should be an election issue. Please, whoever in your catchment area or the candidate, get them to talk about this, because without this foundation, it's going to be plaguing us, and it's going to be a distraction, and it's going to be a thing that the candidates will use, or the governing party will use, to get reelected as they do. Now, I worked in elections BC. I'm a systems analyst, and long story short, here it is. British Columbia Bitcoin. Everyone who's a registered voter gets it. It's 9,200 up to 22,000. It's paid daily. It expires after a year. It doesn't accumulate, non-interest bearing, and it can be used for things in BC. So it doesn't. Oh my goodness. It can be used for things in BC, things made like hemp and stuff like that, can spur industries within BC, and not have the bleed out that the basic income for cash has. Electronic currency is encrypted, almost unhackable. If a hacker tries to get one coin, it's one coin. It can be taken out and replaced. It's auditable. It's a way of being responsible with our funds and getting them to where they need to be. Right? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm a problem solver, and this is one of the things that I feel will provide a basic level foundation for our society to benefit, and we will eliminate poverty. Everyone can have a home, everyone can feed themselves, and have the responsibility on you, the citizen. We all get it, who's a registered voter. So it's up to us to be responsible for ourselves. That's also why I'm running as a candidate. So as an independent, there's another way. How do we solve this proportional representative voting scenario? Run as independent. Parties can be the problem sometimes. If we're all independents here, we're actually then listening to every single one who is an independent, an individual. We all have a voice. It's all important. Every one of us. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Cheers. Anybody else?
Thanks very much for the event. The point I would like to bring up, if I may, is the fact that in the last federal election, locally at least, and please keep in mind the upcoming provincial election, many registered candidates, whether they are from the Communist Party of Canada, the Libertarian Party, the Animal Rights Party, were not allowed to be in the candidates' debates. And they had to fight to be in it. And if you really believe in proportional representation, I think you have to hold the people who put on these debates, some of whom were represented up here today, to have all the registered candidates allowed to be in the debate so we can hear different points of view. Because it's one thing to say you believe in proportional representation, but when you won't even allow all the candidates to be in the debates, there's hypocrisy there. So I hope you support all the registered candidates to be in the debates. Thank you.
Thank you.
He said what we should do is have a charter town. So I am so pleased to see that this is one of the things that you're doing. Now, we made a mistake, and I just want, I was trying to find some of the organizers from Fair Vote, because we filed a charter challenge. Do all of you know what a charter challenge is? And you all know you can get funding for that. So it's very important to have someone willing to do it. And one of the problems we had was that the case was put as Joan Russo and the Green Party. So it was delayed for a long, long time because the Liberals said, you can't have a party being involved in a charter challenge. It has to be an individual. But I just wanted to talk to the organizers. I was trying to find them because they probably know about the case. We have files from professors about the reason the Fair Past the Post violates the charter. From the European Greens, it's a very extensive case. So I just hope they're going to refer back to it. The last time I talked to the lawyer, he said, well, maybe that isn't the route. What we need is to have a majority government that will believe in proportional representation. So that's what we thought was this election. We were getting someone that believed in change, and we didn't get it. So now we really have to go back to the Charter Challenge and have someone willing to stand up, and you get a certain amount of money, and you can work with, what I did was work with the University of Toronto Law School. So you have to work with, that's probably a good way of doing it. And they had $10,000, I think, for research. Anyway, I just wanted to mention, I think it's so important to move with that, because that might be our only hope. Thank you.
Anybody else, or shall we call it quits for now? One last person.